Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your weekly astrology forecast for the week of February 9th to the 15th of 2025. Before I get into the charts here for this week, if you are looking for a reading with me through my Etsy shop, or looking to support me on Ko-Fi, or looking to join the Discord server, all those links are of course in the description below and in my bio if you are on TikTok. Of course, the easiest way to help me is to just hit that like button, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube, hit that follow button if you're on TikTok, as it helps the algorithm to push this video. Again, before I head into the charts here, when I do these readings, I get a lot of stuff through intuitively. So if there's anything regarding like a specific future event or anything like that that is happening, remember that is always kind of subject to change, as we all have free will, basically. Right? My own guidance has been astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things, meaning there's certain vibrational frequencies to the astrology, and whatever is a vibrational match to that will come through. Of course, things can be thwarted, things can be stopped, things can be, whatever. There's a free will aspect. However, the events that are happening will relate to a certain vibration or the energetic themes that we see in the signs, aspects, etc. That are happening at this time. All right, with all that being said, let's jump into the chart for this week. So we're going to start here on Sunday, February 9th, 2025. I have several things happening on this day to begin. So we're going to have this Sun-Mercury Cazimi moment, as well as we're going to have Mars in trine to Saturn. We're also going to have Mercury here in biquintile to the South Node while it's Cazimi the Sun. So interestingly enough, maybe we can start with this. As I've said before, with South Node in Virgo, so Mercury rules Virgo. Mercury also rules Gemini, right? But Virgo is another sign Mercury rules. With the South Node here, I've said this before, this can feel like a constant Mercury retrograde. Maybe not exactly like a Mercury retrograde, kind of not necessarily how it feels, but it has this similar effect, if you want to call it that, I guess. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but it can have like a similar effect, even though it may not feel. I say that because of how I kind of get these things intuitively in terms of how it feels. It doesn't feel like a normal Mercury retrograde, but it can have the same effect as a Mercury retrograde, if that makes any sense to anyone who's ever done this kind of work before, or is trying to understand what the hell I'm saying. It can have that same effect, as in it's going over these old spaces and things, because South Node is kind of where we've been, what we know, but also where we need to let go of. So it can relate to that vibe of all those things like reworking, relooking, redoing, etc. of a retrograde. And since Mercury rules Virgo, it's kind of reflecting of those mercurial themes, especially with Virgo. This is a lot of practical stuff, day-to-day stuff. As I've said, so pay attention to that. As I've said in, sorry for those of you who don't know, when I kind of burp like that, it's usually the guides telling me that that's something to pay attention to. But with, where was I going? I lost my train of thought. Okay. Okay. I remember, thank you. So it's what I said previously regarding the nodal shift. You can check out my previous videos. I said this like way back in December, I think, at this point. There's a video title on YouTube that's like Intuitive Future Message plus Weekly Astrology. That has what I signified regarding the nodal shift between North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo, whereas what we see as practical isn't going to really be practical anymore, and we're moving into the unknown. But because North Node Pisces can be very creative, we get to create that unknown. We get to move in and create what we want to create, and get rid of maybe what's no longer serving us in terms of what we deemed was practical, right? So here we've got this biquintile to this South Node, and of course I think what's kind of interesting about this is Mercury is ruling over the South Node, but now there's this biquintile here, as the Mercury is Cazimi the Sun, right? Which means it's basically in the heart of the Sun, or right that point of like that dead conjunction. this can emphasize mercurial topics. Now, what's interesting here is that Mercury rules Gemini, and what's in Gemini but Jupiter? Jupiter also expands what it touches. It expands where it is. It's expanding this aspect of communication, this awareness that exists within Gemini, and is also on Uranus's north node here. Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, where the Sun and the Mercury are, and with Uranus in Taurus. This could deal maybe with changes surrounding money, but these are like kind of these big shifts and changes that are kind of needing to occur here. But I think what I'm trying to get at, or what I'm kind of being given here, is this strong expansion surrounding this aspect of communication, whether it's communication out of nowhere, but okay, what they're giving me is change. We're in this Aquarius season. We've got a lot going on surrounding aspects of change, of rebellion, of like, revolution, if you want to call it that in some ways. But there's the aspect, that solid aspect or foundation of change that is occurring here. And so with this Cazimi moment, it's almost like this strong awareness now, this strong, this is Aquarius, so Uranian energy, this could seem like it's coming out of left field, coming out of nowhere, right? Or just this sudden awareness, realization. But with Jupiter here in Gemini, Mercury's other sign, it's like this, like I said, with Jupiter and Gemini, it's like this expansion of awareness, that expansion of communication, but that leads to that expansion of awareness, or just the expansion of the mind in terms of that awareness as well. I've been talking about that basically the entire time Jupiter has been in Gemini, and also through the Mercury retrograde that was the end of last year of 2024 there, right? So, excuse me. This could be things, sudden things coming to mind, shocking things, shocking awareness, shocking communication, but there's this enhancement of that mercurial energy and that expansion of that vibe. Now, we do have this biquintile here, excuse me. So take that into account. Pay attention to that. All right. So we do have this biquintile here to the south node. So a biquintile is very feminine energy, very flowing energy, very behind the scenes type energy. It's also like putting in the creative work, but it tends to be behind the scenes. This can also feel like fated stuff coming through. However, remember, we have free will. You create your fate. All right. So what seemed as fated is really a manifestation that is, becoming manifest. So this can almost maybe seem like that in some way, in terms of maybe there's a type of shocking revelation that brings us to this realization of what's been practical that we need to actually let go of now in a lot of ways. Right, at this expansion of awareness in terms of maybe what we need to let go of in a practical sense, or certain details that come up that are being brought up maybe from the past relating to some shocking event, but regarding something that of course needs to be let go of in some way. It's South Node is what we know, where we've been, but that's maybe not really serving us that much right now anymore. Right, we're moving into a new unknown space. All right, so there's a strong, this could be stuff, like I said, behind the scenes, currently happening behind the scenes, maybe what has been happening behind the scenes now coming through. Like I said, there's that aspect of faith that could be showing through there as well. Also on this day, we're going to have this Mars in trine to Saturn. So Saturn in Pisces, so I've said before, is like that dissolution of malefic energy, right? Pisces, that it's a mutable sign. It's that water sign. It's that malleable energy, like that dissolving, shifting, changing. Right, it's like the waves, water flowing as it erodes through, creates a river or whatever, erodes through the land of the structure that is Saturn. So it becomes more malleable. It changes its perception, its look, or whatever in that way. Of course, with Saturn, ruler of Capricorn, dealing with like a lot of structure, control, that kind of stuff. Right, with this trine to Mars retrograde actually in Cancer. So I've said a lot about this. Mars retrograde was about like that masculine energy. So again, I'll reiterate that when I talk about masculine energy, I don't necessarily talk about just men or someone with a dick between their legs, okay? What I'm talking about is the energy itself. So everyone has both divine masculine and divine feminine energy within ourselves. Okay, this is regardless of your sexual orientation, gender identity, whatever. All of that is, of course, still valid, but we have both of those energies within all of us. Okay, and when those energies are in balance and working in harmony is when they're working at their best, right? The energies are different, but one is not better than the other. Okay, they need to be in balance together. All right, and our fucked up society thinks one is better than the other, but again, it's like I said, it's just fucked up. So anyways, what I've said before about this Mars retrograde is that this is the masculine energy kind of having a hard look at where it's been. Remember, retrogrades are like that re-looking, reworking, all that kind of stuff. And in Cancer, we're dealing a lot with maybe, that emotional side. One thing I got was kind of like feminine. Maybe how the masculine treats the feminine, how the masculine feels about the feminine. But this is also becoming more in balance with that feminine, and maybe, learning to express these emotions properly, learning to understand that emotions are part of us all, regardless of your physical gender or your gender expression or whatever. And that just because you're masculine doesn't mean that you can't cry, or that you can't be sad, or that you can't feel certain things, or that you can't be happy or joyful or whatever, right? You don't need to be this stoic, whatever person. You can express the range of emotions the same as everyone else. And that's maybe a lot of, that's one kind of main thing that I've kind of brought through, or that's been brought through like intuitively here in my previous videos surrounding this. However, with this trine to Saturn now, with that dissolution of that malefic energy, that malleable structure, we're now seeing where maybe those older structures, that outdated view of society in a lot of ways, or outdated society, how that's becoming malleable, changing. Pisces is also the sign of compassion, and Saturn tends to teach through restriction. So maybe through this restriction of that compassion, that's where we now need to expand, right? So wherever, a lot of times in your birth chart, wherever Saturn is, that's where you need to expand. That's your growth. It's your karmic growth. It's what you chose, where you chose to grow and have that experience of growth in that area of your life. Of course, that's not just the sign that Saturn is in. That's the house that it's in. That's, what it's aspecting. What's ruling the house can affect that. Is it retrograde? Is it not? So there's many different facets to that that can exist there. It really honestly just pisses me off when people focus on a planet just in a sign and that's it. It's like, I'm sorry, but there's just so much more to it than that. Like, so much more to it. But yeah, anyways, I won't go. I don't know. I always want to get a little, how do I say this? I get very kind of passionate about this because there's so much fucking BS out there from like other people, just that that don't fully understand what this is, and they just manipulate it to their advantage and are basically manipulating other people as well just to make money, right? And that's not right. I do my best to try to do this with integrity, which is why a lot of that other stuff pisses me the fuck off, because I do this intuitively, which I think is an aspect that is almost necessary to properly do this. However, there are astrologers out there who maybe don't understand that, but yet still have that ounce of integrity because they understand that there's more to this than just the fluffy fucking sun sign bullshit that's out there. So, and that's kind of why a lot of I'm so passionate about kind of what I say, in that, okay, it's not just about your sun sign, it's not just about what sign the planet is in, but all of this other stuff, because there's so much fucked up bullshit that is out there, that exists, that people just gobble it up. They get the algorithm to push their stuff and whatever, and these people just gobble it up, thinking that what they're being told is is, you know, the sign from fucking God or something, when it's like, look, you create your own reality. Your higher self was powerful enough to come in at a certain time, which is your astrological chart, with a certain vibration and the energies of that chart to create the physical version of you, to create the character that it wanted to play in this life. Okay, that's how fucking powerful you are. All right? That's how fucking powerful you are. You don't need fucking somebody to tell you whatever or boil it down to just your sun and one sign. We are all amazingly powerful beings, but we have been fed bullshit to the extent to which that we don't believe we're that anymore. And that's what's fucked up. Right? So anyways, back to what I was talking about. With this Saturn in Pisces, like I said, that's that expansion. Maybe that's where we need to expand in terms of compassion. But that is relating to this masculine energy, whether it's expansion maybe towards the masculine that has been hurt in a lot of ways due to those societal expectations and stuff that's pushed upon the masculine, that you have to fit into this certain role, and that creates trauma and all kinds of crazy shit. And then people, you know, they lash out at other people trying to put their trauma onto them, etc. Excuse me, pay attention to that. But also re-looking over this ground of saying the masculine energy maybe needs to be a bit more compassionate, not just towards the feminine, but also towards each other, right? And re-looking at that space and that emotional space, and where, you know, especially when it's masculine looking after masculine, or if you want to break it down into the, you know, heteronormative look at things, where it's men looking at men, instead of forcing each other to fit into some societal norm, having that compassion, that love, that understanding in the individual uniqueness of everyone and each other, not just within that group but outside of it as well, right? And I think that's a lot that's missing in society today, especially regarding aspects of men and masculinity. Right? And especially, like I've said in previous other videos, there's not really very many positive male role models out there for anyone in our current world. And that's honestly really sad. Right? So it's kind of a reworking of the expression of this maybe emotional aspect of the masculine energy as we experience this. Of course, but remember, this is a trine, so this is ultimately positive. However, there can be a heaviness to this as we're dealing with Mars and Saturn, the two, what you may consider the malefics. But like I said, this is a trine, and we're dealing with this water sign, this Mars retrograde. So what I'm feeling is that even though it might feel that heaviness kind of coming through, this is that awareness. Like I said, we're having that Kazemi moment today, Jupiter and Gemini, that expansion, the awareness, maybe what we've seen is practical regarding that masculine behavior, just simply ain't gonna fly anymore. You know, we need to learn to be in our hearts more. We need to learn to positively express in certain ways more, and differently, like that, like I had just said. All right, so that is Sunday. Again, I feel like I've talked too much for one day again. Let's move on to Monday here. So on Monday, we're also going to have here now, so the sun is then going to peak in its biquintile to the south node, and we're also going to have Mercury in square to Uranus. Okay, so this is kind of this Sun-Mercury, still conjunct, not really in Kazemi anymore, but that Kazemi moment that was there as they were both building into square yesterday as well to Uranus and Taurus. So again, that's highlighting this awareness in this aspect of change. It's almost like what I was kind of getting there is waking people up to change. All right, I've talked about this Uranus and Taurus stuff before, as well as learning to see the value in change. It's also the cattle prod trying to kick the bull in the ass to get it moving. But Taurus deals a lot with value. You can deal with your own value and your own worth, your value, self-worth, etc. It's dealing with that aspect of value and worth. And with Uranus here, it's learning to see that value in change, in uniqueness, individuality, shaking things up, revolution, rebelliousness, that kind of stuff. With this square here that is occurring, especially with that Sun conjunct Mercury and that Kazemi moment on the previous day, building in square to Uranus, it's going to be really pushing for that awakening, that awareness, and seeing the value of change. All right, because I've said before, when we've got Uranus that's going to shift into Gemini, later this year. Like, when that happens, if you haven't learned to see the value in change yet, you're fucked. Because that energy is going to be conducive to a speeding up of these Aquarian themes, as well as the Gemini. Gemini is very quick energy. It's going to be, these are both air signs, and it's very like intellectual, masculine type, go kind of energy. Okay, this Aquarian happening out of nowhere, this Gemini just, okay, we're seeing like this aspect of change, Uranian energy, shaking things up, all of that. If you're not getting used to that now, if you're not learning to see the value in doing that now and creating valuable change, you're fucked. I'm sorry to say, but we have to get out of this hole that everybody is in, that no, I'm scared of change and I don't want to do this. I'm going to clutch onto my old beliefs and all these things and just, oh my God, I can't see the world is changing. And it's like, pull yourself together, okay? And understand, change is the only constant in the world, and we need to learn to see the value in that. And we need to see that not all change is bad, and that we all have a part to play, a role to play in this change. If we want to make it positive, if we want to make it good, we have to understand that change is here and change is valuable. However, what that change is now is up to us. If you want to make it a positive change, make it a positive change. Don't cower in fear at change. That's not going to help you. No one's going to come and fucking save you. Because guess what? All of this energy, like I said, astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things. We're in a state of change where the vibrational match to what is being manifest is surrounding aspects of change. However, it's up to us to create the change that we want to create. So you want good change? Make good change then. Because if you're going to sit there and cower in fear, you're going to let this pass you by, and you've lost your opportunity to create positive fucking change. You've lost your opportunity to stop being just a little fucking coward and to actually make that difference, make that change. It's like I said, this could likely be that awakening point, that awareness for a lot of people to be like, hey, something like, let's go. Right? Like, change is valuable. We can see the value in change here. Right? As these shakeups and things begin to move forward. And you have to remember, like, this Aquarian Uranus energy is also like that revolutionary energy. Revolutions don't necessarily come easy, but they require change. They require change. And they lead to change. It's all kind of like interconnected there in that sense, right? So, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. You can be a revolutionary and change for what's better, right? Make it for what's better, not for what's detrimental. Okay, we need to learn to see a lot of the value in that, right? This can also, of course, lead to communication, either shocking communication, stuff's coming, like I said, seemingly out of left field, out of nowhere. Since Uranus is in Taurus, could be those Venus-related themes surrounding money as kind of one thing that I've coming through, a lot of value, worth, money, that kind of stuff. There could be something maybe shocking there coming through, or just out of nowhere, or just, you know, like I said, we're in this place of change. We're dealing with a lot with Aquarian energy, which is unpredictable, unstable, but it's dealing with that aspect of change. And once we learn to work with that and deal with that energy, we're going to be fine. But we can't be scared of it. We cannot be scared of it any longer. We have to learn to see, and one aspect of change is learning to see the uniqueness of the individual and respecting individuality within each other. Okay? Anyway, there's really a lot to unpack surrounding all of this, and not enough for me to just, like, I have a whole week of astrology to do in this video. I can't just sit on this the whole fucking time, right? But there's really a lot to unpack here surrounding these aspects of change, and how what I see in the world and what I kind of feel right now is like this lack of Well, I think for some people there is that desire for change, for resolution, and then there's also for a lot of people that are still stuck and they don't want to kind of see that because they want to remain comfortable. But it's like remaining comfortable in, it's like you've been like trapped on an island somewhere for so long, and you forget what it's like to live in like a civilized world, and you just get comfortable there. And instead of, I don't need to be rescued anymore, I can just, sit here and forage and fend for myself and never bathe or whatever. And when you've forgotten what it's like to have a shower every day, you've forgotten what it's like to do all of these things, and you realize that actually no, if you did make an effort to maybe get rescued and then go back to that, you realize maybe that, oh yeah, actually this is great, proper hygiene and all of these other things, right? Maybe that's a stupid example, or I don't know, I'm not really pushing my point to where it needs to go, but hoping that, maybe somebody listening to me maybe will understand what the hell it is that I'm trying to say. Anyway, also on this day, we're going to have that sun in biquintile to the south node too. I think this is really awareness to this change again, and this whatever needs to be let go of from the past in terms of that practicality. What we deemed as practical isn't practical anymore, and regarding that aspect of change, right? And that awareness of that we're seeing with that Sun Mercury conjunction Cazimi square Uranus. But again, with that biquintile, this is behind the scenes work, whether that's you're putting in the work behind the scenes or whether that's now coming through, in terms of this change from what used to be practical into something else now. All right? Okay, so that's Monday. Let's move on to Tuesday here. Tuesday the 11th, now we're going to have that Sun square Uranus. All right, so again, we're looking at this aspect of change. There's very, very strong aspect surrounding change. And beginning to see and learning to see the value in that. I'm kind of being drawn towards this full moon in Leo that's going to be happening, and it's going to be in this T square to Uranus. But maybe before we get there, so maybe let's just kind of skip this Sun square Uranus for a moment till I get to the full moon. And let's talk about a couple other things on this day. So we're going to have Mercury here in trine, exact trine to Black Moon Lilith there in Libra. Black Moon Lilith in Libra, where we've been outcast in terms of our relationships, injustices, things like that. What I'm getting surrounding this is because of this Aquarian energy, this could be related to our uniqueness, individuality, etc. Of course, that can relate to, people that have been, outcasted from society in some way or deemed as weird in some way, like whether it's, like I'm gay, so people, like outcast the gays, right? Or they don't like homosexuality or something like that, or like talk about like the homosexual agenda or some. Anyway, that's not I'm not here to bring any negativity to any of that, but what I'm just saying is that's like an example of maybe where you've been outcast in terms of your relationships, other people, injustices, etc., as it relates to that Aquarian energy. Maybe in terms of that awareness of that being outcast in that sense, but where we need to learn to respect our individuality. Like, just because you're different in some way doesn't mean that you're a bad person, right? You're just different, okay? No one is better than another. We're all just different, okay? There's like, 7-8 billion people on this planet? It means there's 7 to 8 billion different ways to live life. And we need to learn to respect that. We need to learn to understand that instead of trying to fit everyone into some stupid fucking box. Okay? And that's kind of dealing with this outcasted energy and that maybe awareness. Maybe, like I said, something shocking coming through surrounding maybe an awareness of that. But an awareness to maybe communication coming out surrounding this. Because remember, Black Moon Lilith in a sign too is also facing where you've been outcast in that sense to ultimately heal it and begin to understand that at the same time. So there could be that as well being highlighted and coming through here too. That remember, we can't just leave other people out. There's aspects of change and rebellion that are happening, but we need to understand that not only are we all in this together, but we need to learn to respect and understand our uniqueness, individuality, etc. Right? And not just cast someone aside just because they're different from us. Okay, we've also got this Mercury here in biquintile to that Mars retrograde in Cancer. So I feel like with that biquintile, what I kind of felt like was that's relating to what this Mars retrograde is in terms of that masculine energy, reviewing its emotional expression and becoming more compassionate, etc. Maybe in terms of the awareness of what I was talking about through that. But like I said, that biquintile, that's very feminine energy, creative, behind the scenes type energy. This could also seem like unconscious energy on an unconscious level, or on an inner level, maybe in terms of the masculine energy within all of us, regarding that awareness that might be coming through there, whether that's in terms of that's how it's happening behind the scenes for us, or whether that's now being expressed in some way as it has been internalized like that previously. All right. Okay, so let's actually move to Wednesday the 12th here, where we are going to have this full moon in Leo at 24 degrees. All right, so one thing I got prior to this, because sometimes I'll get stuff when I'm thinking about main events prior to like the week that I'm doing these videos, was that this full moon is kind of like this illumination or bringing center stage these aspects of change. Because you have to remember, Leo is that the sun rules Leo, right? It's that illumination. It's that putting it out there, being in the spotlight, right? It's that actor, actress type energy. It's that dramatic, like, I'm a Leo and here to express yourself. And, you know, it's like Bretman Rock, be the baddest bitch, right? So you gotta like, you're out there, you're putting yourself out there, you're the baddest, you know, it's that kind of stuff. It can seem dramatic, it can seem like, but it's that expressive energy. And what this is illuminating, especially with the sun in Aquarius, just after that Cazimi moment now with the Mercury still in conjunct it, illuminating this aspect of awareness of change, right? It's really coming center stage. It's really being pushed here, especially since that full moon is in this T-square to Uranus and Taurus. Now, Uranus and Taurus, like I've said previously, is these big shifts and changes that have needed to occur. Right? So there's stuff that's being illuminated here that could be blocks in the way of this change as well. And these could be big blocks, because you have to remember Taurus is a earth sign. That's the bull. It doesn't like to fucking move. Taurus only wants to do what it wants to do and nothing else. That's why I've said we need to learn to see the value in change. Otherwise it's going to be tough, right? But it's the kicking that bull in the ass to make it realize that change is in fact important and what is needed right now. So with this almost like destabilization or shaking things up with this Uranus energy, especially in that T-square, when we have this sun conjunct Mercury there in Aquarius, Uranus's sign, but also squaring this moon in Leo with that full moon energy, it's almost like I said, releasing what is in the way of change, but at the same time illuminating what is occurring surrounding this change, right? It's bringing that awareness to it and then maybe releasing what isn't it any longer, right? It's kind of like all at the same time it's happening, but there's big shifts that are occurring here, like I said. And like I said, with Uranus and Taurus, it could be like that big shift because a bull is hard to move, right? That's why there's cattle prods and things like that, right? So in order to kind of really move that bull, it needs that jolt, it needs that push in order to move in a different direction. But of course, learning to see the value in this change would make this a lot easier on everyone if that would happen, instead of being so, bullheaded and stubborn about everything. You see where I'm kind of getting at with all of this? Right? So that could be part of what that release is that is occurring here, is releasing a lot of that bullheaded stubbornness that is getting in the fucking way. Because this is actually a fixed sign T-square. Right? If we look at this, one thing that I've kind of noticed here too is if we look at a T-square, sometimes if you look at the sign that's missing, that's can give you a hint at what help to resolve this T-square. So if we look at this, the opposing sign of Taurus is of course Scorpio. Getting to the bottom of something, transformation. It's that Pluto energy. Pluto is in Aquarius. Again, dealing with aspects of change. This idea of transformation that needs to occur. Facing what we have to face in order to heal and transform. To move forward into these aspects of change and stuff, right? And again, people don't like Scorpio because people don't want to look at their own fucking issues. That's why people don't like Scorpio. Like, it's because Scorpio brings up in them what they need to face, transform, and heal in their own right. And people don't like that. They just want to sweep it under the rug and forget that it fucking exists. And just go la 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 and live through life like that. I'm sorry, but that's not healing. You haven't healed your traumas, you're just ignoring it. And you're a fucking moron for doing it. Sorry for calling that out, but you want to actually have a better life? Face what you gotta face and heal what you gotta heal. That being said, I don't mean to like hurt anyone. Like if there's a really severe trauma that, you know, that truly does scare you, there are ways that you can get help to heal that. But what I'm trying to say is sweeping it under the rug isn't going to help you, right? You can see a therapist, psychiatrist, etc. Talk to someone. There's lots of resources available to you where you can actually get the help that you need to help heal. Okay, so don't take this as me being a fucking douchebag to you. What I'm saying is like if you've dealt with that kind of stuff, in order to really begin to move on with it, you do have to face it in order to heal it. And there's different ways in which you can go about doing so. But seriously, find someone that you can trust to talk to and to get the help that you need to do that kind of stuff to get through that. Okay, I'm not trying to be a dickwad to those people that have really suffered severe traumas, but I'm trying to really wake up those people that simply don't want to face things and are being basically cunts and assholes because they haven't resolved their trauma and they end up pushing their trauma onto other people instead of actually being responsible people and cleaning out their own closets, so to speak. Right? So, yeah. Anyways, but yes, there is a T-square with this full moon with Uranus, and you can kind of see we have Juno here a bit, kind of on the opposite end to that. It's in a somewhat of a wide opposite, not really. And Juno, of course, deals with partnerships, contractual partnerships, committed partnerships, etc. So that could be an aspect surrounding what gets illuminated and what we see that needs to change is maybe these contracts and partnerships and things, and that can very well be business contracts, government contracts, etc. that need to transform and change, and certain things get to the bottom of, transform and change in order for us to really move forward, to release the blocks, whatever blocks was surrounding that, whatever needs to change within those contracts, whether they need to dissolve or change in some way in order to move forward, release those blocks and move forward. So there's a big push here with this full moon in that T-square to Uranus, that there's an aspect of transformation and change here that needs to occur through this, right? Also on this day, we're going to have the sun. Whoa, I'm already focused on the sun. We're going to have the sun here, of course, now peaking in its biquintile to that Mars retrograde. So again, this could also be very strongly highlighting this aspect of change or removing certain blocks surrounding what this masculine energy is going through its retrograde in Cancer there, in terms of its emotional expression and healing that side of itself in a lot of ways too, right? And really pushing and moving those blocks that were stuck in the way of that and illuminating this aspect of maybe what really needs to change in a lot of ways surrounding that as well. Of course, that can be very internalized here, possibly with that biquintile, as it can relate to behind the scenes, so it can be that internalized stuff. Or it's behind the scenes of stuff that we've internalized before that maybe is now coming through. And like I said, this can feel like fate in some ways too, but again, you create your fate, right? All right. Also on this day, not till like way later in the day, almost like heading into Thursday, we're going to have Mercury here in quincunx to the south node, and of course semi-sextile the north node here. So again, especially with this quincunx, there's a frustration here surrounding these aspects of change in terms of what we deemed as practical, and through this awakening and awareness now of what needs to change. Remember, Mercury's ruling the south node, and Mercury's in Aquarius, dealing with that aspect of change, like I said, and letting go of what is deemed changing, what we've deemed as practical, letting go of it. South node is here. What we've used to is not what we're going to be used to anymore. With this semi-sextile here to north node in Pisces, this Aquarian Pisces energy, this is very much change and no boundaries and creating and totally moving in a new fucking direction. Right? This kind of really feels like these energies are working together to move us forward. And if you want to know more about kind of the combination of these two energies, I did a video on the astrology of Gen Z, as they, as a generation, tend to carry a lot of this Piscean Aquarian type of vibe, especially as you get into Gen Z born into early to mid 2000s, is when this really tends to become more intensely highlighted versus late 90s Gen Z. However, this still kind of exists there in some way, even with late 90s Gen Z as well, but it becomes more and more so in the early 2000s type of Gen Z. So if you want to get an expansion of that, and also maybe how that generation is using that energy and what they're meant for in that way, you can check out that previous video go to my profile on TikTok or just on YouTube. You can go back and see that video, The Astrology of Gen Z. All right. So yeah, that's basically what I talked about. There's a frustration here surrounding this integration of what we need to let go of in terms of what's practical surrounding these aspects of change and moving forward into a completely new and fucking unknown direction. But that's up to our own creation. All right. And of course, with Mercury in that semi-sextile to Neptune as well, with Neptune on the north node here, this is very much dissolving, almost like an old way. We're moving in a new unknown space. This could be very much, especially with a semi-sextile with Mercury here in Aquarius, stuff that's maybe liberated or revealed in certain ways to be headed in a new direction. And what we thought the details were, what we thought certain things were in a practical reality sense, is not actually what it was, right? Especially since we've got the, Mercury ruling Gemini here, and Jupiter is in Mercury sign of Gemini, expanding this awareness and communication, etc. on Uranus's north node surrounding these aspects of change, which is still in square to this Sun Mercury's type stuff in the sextile to north node there on Neptune. Wow. Okay, it's Wednesday the 12th. Let's move on to Thursday the 13th. So here we're going to have, like I said, this is kind of the exact, because it happens like right overnight, that Mercury semi-sextile Neptune. So I've already kind of talked about that. Actually that does, it's showing, yeah, 8:29 a.m. Sorry, there's like a small bar of like view that I get to see here. Maybe it wasn't showing me correctly previously. But anyway, it's happening between the days, right? It's still going on. So again, like I said, Mercury semi-sextile Neptune, we got that. So we're now going to have the Sun as well in trine to Black Moon Lilith. So surrounding these aspects of illumination, but maybe where we've been outcast in terms of our relationships, injustice, etc., relating to uniqueness, individuality, maybe this awareness, change, etc., that needs to occur surrounding this, of injustices where we've been outcast, etc., that are still happening, right? So it's still related, instead of maybe that, well, no, it's still related to Mercury, I feel, because Mercury is still conjunct the Sun here in Aquarius, Mercury, and that, of course, Jupiter and Mercury sign, the communication is going to be a strong aspect surrounding this, but there's kind of this illumination now of what this is too. But the Sun is still playing a role. I mean, this trine was building as well, even with Mercury and peaking it. So it's kind of like this energy is just continuing on kind of later in this week. But again, what I feel coming through is there's this illumination of what this Black Moon Lilith energy has been. And maybe what needs to change, but also as it relates to people's uniqueness, individuality, and how we all need to learn to respect and understand that with each other. We also have Mercury here in exact square to Juno on this day. Again, communication surrounding shakeups, etc., regarding whatever these contractual commitments were, whether that's business contracts, marriage contracts, government contracts, whatever kind of relationship type of commitment that has existed with this Juno energy, right? So any kind of commitment in that sense that needs to be transformed in some way. There's now an awareness and communication and change surrounding that is pushing for this to happen with this square here. Squares aren't necessarily bad. They're just pushing for a resolution in some way. Excuse me. Surrounding, and of course we're dealing with Scorpio and Aquarius type energy. So this is very strong, fixed energy on transformation and change through whatever this communication or awareness is in terms of these contracts, business contracts, government contracts, whatever they are, etc. Right? So there's an extreme focus and heaviness surrounding that as well. All right, so let's go to Friday the 14th. And actually on Friday the 14th, we just have Mercury coming into Pisces. All right. So, and nothing else major really going on. So with Mercury heading into Pisces, okay, one thing I kind of got there was intuitive. This could feel, another kind of thing was maybe a bit revealing. So we do have here, so Jupiter in Gemini, which is obviously in Mercury sign, and with Mercury in Pisces, there's like this expansion now that's occurring. You have to remember Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces as well. So again, there's more of this expansion of awareness now that is occurring here. And I'm kind of being drawn to again, Jupiter on Uranus' north node, surrounding aspects of change. But it's kind of like maybe this communication of what's been hidden, or almost like behind the veil. It's almost like intuitive communication or this understanding, but it's like seeing through the fog, maybe in a lot of ways, or communication that is coming out based on what has been there. I don't know. It's hard to articulate some of how this actually feels. This can also be like covering up. So the use of this, so like I said, astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things. So how this energy is used is often up to us in terms of what is a vibrational match to it. So, and then you have high vibration and low vibration and etc., right? So in terms of how this can be used with Mercury in Pisces, it can be like a deception through communication. However, this can also be used in terms of the mind or communication, understanding and communicating what has been hidden behind the scenes in terms of either intuitively or maybe what's been hidden there, right? And with Jupiter here in Gemini, Mercury sign, there's this expansion of awareness of maybe what has been hidden. So it's almost like maybe this is playing off of each other in terms of maybe the use of this energy in terms of what has been deceptive, but now that realization of what has been deceptive and what's been hidden. This is really weird. And of course, the vibe of Pisces can be kind of weird, right? Because it's like anything goes in Pisces, and it's hidden, it's veiled, it's fog. It's kind of like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? And you just kind of, it's like the acid trip, right? It's like Pisces rules escapism. And of course, there's positive and negative aspects of escapism. Drugs being a negative aspect of escapism. But I'm kind of felt like it's like that when you think back to like the 60s or whatever, and like the acid trip and the funky flowers. I don't know. That kind of thing. But like, I don't even know exactly where I was going with that. It's like this, maybe that's part of what this is with this anything goes in terms of this Pisces energy, but also maybe the deceptiveness of it, right? Like that, I don't know exactly. I think I've said everything on that I'm kind of getting from it. In terms of maybe there's an expansion. There's an aspect of expansion, though, for sure, considering this Jupiterian vibe and that no boundaries in terms of Pisces vibe. I'm just trying to think if I can feel into anything else. It just feels the same to me. So, yeah. Everything that I just said, this is everything that I just said. Okay, so that's Friday the 14th. Let's look at Saturday the 15th here. So on Saturday the 15th, we're going to have Mercury in Mercury in sesqui-square to Mars, retrograde in Cancer. So now we're dealing with this Pisces, kind of like this compassionate, flowing type energy. So I don't know what this is. It feels like this flowing, an aspect of it was maybe like drunkenness. Of course, that was an aspect of escapism for a lot of like old school masculine type energy, where they're like just drinking straight out of the bottle and like smoking, and like there's this rough and tough masculine that they try to, instead of like expressing their emotions and healing properly, they just cover it up with booze and drugs or whatever, and act all tough to get through their shit. And it's like there's this sesqui-square, it's like something that can't be swept under the rug any longer. And like I said, with Mercury there, it's like that awareness in a lot of ways. In terms of this Mars retrograde, in terms of healing, maybe that emotional expression in that sense as well. But it just kind of, let me see if I can feel into it a bit more. Soft. There's like a softening. It's like there's a harshness, there's a certain harshness to that masculine energy that needs to be softened. It's a softening of that energy, but it needs to be softened, right? Because there's a lot of men that need to learn to be in their heart space more and stand up and defend for what's right, instead of just being a crusty fucking douchebag, because that's what society wants them to be, right? So what I kind of feel like with that is it's pushing for this softening. Of course, okay. There's going to be some fucking asshole men that may watch this. They'd be like, oh, we want us all men to be soft and like little fairies and all this stuff. It's like, shut the fuck up. Okay? Just, that's not what I'm... First of all, there's nothing wrong with being soft if you're a man. Okay? There isn't anything wrong with that at all. In fact, that's part of what this retrograde is maybe trying to signify and make people realize, is that there is nothing fucking wrong with that. And that softness is maybe actually helping to heal the fucking masculine, for Christ's sake, instead of whatever that bullshit that I previously said about acting all rough and tough. That's not healing you. That's fucking covering it up. There's nothing wrong with being soft, and that isn't to say that all men are going to be soft. But what it is understanding your heart. What it is understanding your emotions. What it is, yeah, you can be tough, but for the right reasons, not the wrong ones. But that you don't have to be tough if that's not you. Okay? That's what this is. This sesqui-square is something that can no longer be swept under the rug. It's that extreme push for resolution. And in terms of this compassionate softening of this emotional release, I guess, in a lot of ways, and understanding in that sense too. All right. I'm going to stop talking about that. And you have to remember, I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. However, I do agree with that message. Also, oh my God, I'm already on Mercury. We're going to have Mercury in semi-sextile to Pluto. Okay, so yeah, surrounding that aspects of change and transformation that really strongly need to occur within this area in a lot of ways. But also highlighting, okay, so there's this transformation and this progress that's really trying to push and occur with this Pluto in Aquarius. Excuse me. And with the semi-sextile to Mercury here, it's almost like there's a dissolution of, I don't know if it's maybe blocks to the mind, or there's this aspect of awakening, of revelation that is occurring here. Like I said previously, with the Mercury in Pisces, it just feels odd to me that, I mean, it's just a weird energy. It's not bad. Like, I don't mean weird as in bad. I just mean weird as in, I don't think we've really experienced what exactly this is pushing for us right now. Right? And like I've said, that with that North Node now in Pisces conjunct Neptune, it's like we're moving into the unknown. Like, we don't know where the fuck we're going. And I think maybe that awareness is maybe starting to come through now, that we are moving and changing and pushing in a new direction, and maybe where we've never been before. But it's also expanding and pushing for certain healing in a lot of ways too, right? And realizing aspects of escapism and maybe drug use, I don't fucking know. But there's something about that surrounding this transformation and change, and that awareness and that dissolving and compassion. It could be compassion, but it's just like this, I don't even know how to fully articulate this feeling. I wanted to say lost, but it's not lost. It's like, it's like in the abyss. It's like in the abyss of Pisces. It's like Pisces can be fucking anything, and it's like whatever needs to be transformed and comes out here. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to further articulate this, to be brutally honest. We'll just have to, beyond what I've said, we'll just have to see how it plays out. I'm sorry. Anyways, with the sun, we'll move on to the sun here. So the sun is going to be in semi-sextile to the North Node and quincunx to the South Node. So at first this was Mercury. Now we're relating to the sun in terms of illuminating this integration of change surrounding what we've deemed as practical that isn't anymore. And of course, Mercury ruling the South Node. Of course, initially when Mercury did this, Mercury was in Aquarius. Now Mercury's in Pisces, as the Sun is now in quincunx to the South Node. So it's slightly different than when Mercury was here. But Mercury's in Pisces now, which is a mutable sign like Virgo, so that there's this malleable type of energy through whatever this awareness is. But I feel like because the North Node is also in Pisces, it's this awareness of what deems practical. Is like there's this malleable to this now. It's like it's changing. We're moving. It's like we're this awareness of moving in this new direction, but we don't know what the fuck we're doing or where we're going. But it's surrounding aspects of change. But this is ultimately change that has needed to occur. There's still that square there to Uranus as well. So this is a really strong, it almost feels like, I want to say use the word heavy, but I don't think it's heavy in a bad way, but it's like a heavy push for like things to change, things to occur, right? So, but there's an integration that needs to occur there surrounding the change that can seem frustrating, but it's happening regardless. With that semi-sextile to the North Node and Neptune, like I said, it's just this opportunity there for change and to move forward, change, dissolve to move forward into the unknown, change and into the unknown. And like I said, watch that Gen Z video for more on this kind of vibe and energy, and especially surrounding like their generation. They're kind of built for where we're headed. Yeah. All right, so that's Saturday the 15th. I guess that's all I've got for this week. So cool. If you made it this far in the video, thank you, love you, appreciate you so much. Leave a purple heart in the comments if you did make it this far so that I know you're a real one. And I hope to see everyone in the next video. Take care. Bye guys. Bye.